Okay, I'm going to give a few announcements and then. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I apologize for a small crowd. It could be weather, could be, who knows, a lot of things going on in April, I think. But it's great. I'm excited to hear everyone read today. This is the First Writers Guild First Sunday Prose Reading series. I'm Molly Gleason, and I'm the organizer for this event. We have a great program lined up, as you all know, but a few Writers Guild announcements before we get started. So this Thursday, the spoken word series will be featuring poets Thomas Neeland and Marilyn Wolfe, and music by Jack Cart. And that's at the Backspace Gallery inside Bunfet on the Square. And that's this April 10th, this Thursday from 6 to 8. There's always an open mic, so come and read something of your own if you want. I don't know if you know Zilia Belkansky-Selle. She's in a one-woman play called Apples in Winter. Excuse me, I'm drinking fizzy water, maybe a mistake. And that's going to be in Reed Hall on April 11th through the 13th, just a few performances. And then there's Poetry for All Occasions at the Public Library downtown. Join Tony Brewer, the 2024 Indiana Humanities Literary Champion, for this workshop on how to write poems for special occasions. And in celebration of National Poetry Month, the last Sunday Poetry and Open Mic will feature Tracy Mishkin and Joseph Kirschbaum at Morgenstern's Bookstore and Cafe, and that's April 27th, 7 to 8:30. Finally, this is preaching to the choir here, I know, but two pleas. One is for this gallery, for wonderful Jamie and her co-workers. And yay! We owe so much to Jamie for providing us this space, and I would hate for us to lose it. So that means we have to show up. And that's buying a tea today, and is coming back and having lunch, or, the art is incredible, so take your pick. So let's see, what else? And then finally, a plea for the Writers Guild. We're looking for money too, always. And we have 425 members. And if, everyone gave $20 a year, we wouldn't have to worry about our programming. Anyway, we're on our, you can find our donate button on the website or talk to me. And so both these causes are pretty gosh darn important. So finally, I'm going to get to our program. And today we're honoring Voices of the Incarcerated. And you'll hear pieces from, I think, 9 different folks. Maybe it's more than that, by Jaime Sweany, Glenda Breeden, and Amy Cornell. And they are either friends with the incarcerated, or they facilitate workshops with these folks. And I'm very grateful to the Women Writing for a Change for helping us out today and providing some of that reading. So I'm just going to invite people up one by one, and they're going to do their own introductions. After they read, we'll have a 10-minute break, and then we'll have open mic, which I think Tony is the only one who signed up so far. But if anyone else wants to do an open mic, that would be great. So, all right, so we'll get started. I think first up is Jamie herself. Yay!
Hello. So I'm Jaime Sweany. I'm the owner here at Juniper Art Gallery, and thank you for coming out for this. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Duane Busick for recording the event for us. I'm excited about that. I'll upload the video onto Juniper's YouTube channel so you can see it there. So I also want to thank Laura Lacertmer from Women Writing for a Change, because she's the person that introduced me to Rajon Taylor's writing during an event we had back in October of 23, I believe. Yeah, it was, yeah. So that was really a powerful event that changed my life. So I'm honored to call Rajon Taylor my friend. He's inmate 41070-074 at the Federal Penitentiary in Terre Haute, Indiana. So I am going to try not to cry. So I've got 4 short pieces by Rajan that I'm going to read. I'm going to start with one, and I'll just go with it. There's an ancient African proverb that says something to this effect. The child not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. When I consider my community of death sentence men on federal death row, I notice a common thread tying most of it, if not all of it, all of us together: extensive childhood trauma. This debilitating trauma was inflicted upon us by our community when we were the most vulnerable, when we were most in need of nourishing warmth. There were no concerned citizens to rescue us, no rallies to highlight our plight, no protests to stop the abuse, no discussions on talk radios to end the neglect. We were too young and damaged to understand the long-term effects of this kind of trauma on our brain's development. Many of us approach life impulsively and unreflectively. On our unconscious quest for warmth, we set fires in our community. Little fires at first, like burning down of relationships. We felt something from people. We felt something from the people we hurt. Even their anger was kind of a warmth, though not the nourishing kind. One thing led to another until we set fires in the heart of the village and people died. So here we are in the aftermath, talking about the death penalty, protesting it even. But what are we doing to embrace our children, to protect and nourish them? Have we forgotten that hurt people hurt people? The death penalty is not just a moral or policy issue, it's a societal issue, one that started long before we got to the crime and punishment. When children aren't embraced by the village, that's a kind of death penalty in itself. What are we doing about that death penalty? So this one is called Shooting the Breeze, December 10th, 2022. Inside the confines of solitary confinement's concrete cell, you have to make abnormal adjustments in a rather abnormal situation. Otherwise, your capacity to socialize atrophies. You wither up and die a social death. In this place, you'd better adjust and find creative ways of connecting and communicating lest your emotions become hollowed out, leaving behind only a mere shell of your social self. I've been isolated on federal death row for 15 years now, and have learned some deaths are more inhumane than lethal injection. As long as there is an ounce of humanity left alive in you, a person is compelled to reach out and socialize, by any means necessary, even if you gotta yell through the solid steel door of your solitary cell, or shoot the breeze, as I often do, with disembodied voices through the ventilation system. In this 4-storied maximum security building at the Federal Penitentiary in Terre Haute, Indiana, the ventilation system is a social lifeline, the grapevine of prison gossip and not-so-private confessions. The social network where mundane conversations go viral, carried through the vents of far-flung cells across the 4 floors. Standing on my stainless steel toilet in my 3rd-floor solitary cell, I shoot the breeze with voices from downstairs, my head close to the perforated vent on the concrete wall. I'm a white girl with tits and hips and ass, a feminine voice lilts through the air ducts, cutting through the heavy male notes, clogging up the airways. I would know that nasal, high-pitched tone anywhere, the way it emotes a joy uncharacteristic in this dank, dark place. It's Bonnie. Call me Bonnie Grace, she told me when we first met at the vent. Bonnie lives on the 2nd floor, confined to administrative segregation, also known as the Hole, which occupies the first 2 floors. Federal death row occupies the upper 2. In the Hole, men who were once in general population are segregated and locked down in solitary confinement for various reasons, most of which have nothing to do with disciplinary infractions or pending investigations. Bonnie is there for the latter, or so she says. I've been chatting with Bonnie since earlier in the day. I'd been pacing when I heard her yell up through the vent, "Death row!" I ignored the voice at first, not sure who she was calling. "Upstairs!" Still, I paid it no mind. "I know you hear me. Hear you moving around up there." Sounds travel through all this steel and concrete, and apparently my footfalls were thudding upon the concrete floor, which was Bonnie's ceiling. Tugged by the voice and ever yearning for social proximity, I stepped up on the toilet seat, put my ear to the vent, and that was the start of our social exchange. And no matter the subject, Bonnie tends to go off on tangents and promote her appearance as if she's taking selfies with her words. At this moment, she's doing just that. I'm about 5'10", weigh about 150 pounds, skinny, long hair, pretty. She pauses, perhaps distracted or thinking, and then she says with gleeful pride, "And they say I look like the girl on Beetlejuice." Beetlejuice, what? I reply, confused. I faintly remember that movie. I think the characters are phantoms or a version of Living Dead ghost-like, and I'm surprised that Bonnie sees this as a compliment. What? WTF? I comment. A male voice interrupts us. "And she got a big-ass nose, too." "Oh, my God," Bonnie says, her signature interjection. "But I'm cute, though," she giggles, and I picture her admiring herself, her hand running through her long hair, flinging it in the air, giddy with all the social attention. Bonnie is transgender, identifies as female, and takes hormones. "I take estrogen and anti-testosterone pills every day," she informs us, and now she's a white girl with tits and hips and ass, one of 14 or so transgender residents in this all-male prison. Bonnie's legal name is Stephen, out of Texas. Stephen used to be part of a white supremacist gang. "I used to tear shit up," Bonnie says, wilding out, fighting and stabbing, doing all kinds of crazy shit for the gang. But all along, she says, a part of her felt like a female. Bonnie never tells me what led her to taking the prison psych evaluation, one of the first steps to transitioning inside the Federal Bureau of Prisons. She just tells me about the process. She started transitioning less than a year ago, and her body has changed drastically, or so she says. You never know what's true at the event. A person can be anybody, assuming whatever persona, catfishing and being catfished. But I choose to believe Bonnie. I have to, in order to socialize, to stave off social death. After some time, I end the exchange, step down from the toilet, and plant my feet on the cold concrete ground. I resume pacing compulsively, one of the adverse effects of solitary confinement, and I immerse myself in the lingering warmth, the afterglow of social rapport. So I spoke with Rajan last night, and he asked me to read this one, which is called Deleted Images. And I don't know, it took me a while to catch on to this, but Rajan works kind of like an orderly in the prison, so he gets to go out from his cell a little bit more often than some of the other inmates do, and he cleans and sweeps and all that. But he also has the job of photographing inmates that are new that come in, and so this is a really interesting piece that he wrote about photographing Dylan Roof, if you know who that is. I feel adrenaline coursing beneath my brown skin as I look at the digital display in my hands, gripped between my index fingers and thumbs. With bated breath, I zoom in on my subject. He stands within a metal wire cage about the size of an old-school phone booth. A green square suddenly appears on the screen, framing his head, a sign that this piece of smart technology recognizes his humanity, despite the inhumanity of his acts, when he preyed upon innocent blood on hallowed grounds. And now he's caged like a feral animal, deprived of another's tender touch. I've been observing him for almost an hour, standing outside his cage, inhaling the same stale air as he, in this unventilated room. Thanks to my job, I'm out of my cage, in relative freedom, doing what I do, taking pictures with a digital camera in a place of antiquated punishment on federal death row. My subject is fraying my patience. He obsesses over his image, bugs out over how he appears in the camera display. I've shot so many pictures of him this session that the plastic casing of the Canon is warm to my touch, a result of the flashbulb heating up inside it from overuse. I don't like my hair, he whines, his gaze fixed on his digital image. His voice has a cloudy quality, as if placed in his throat. Your hair looks like it always does, I reply. He never made good eye contact, but in the past it was much worse. Though I tell him it's all in his head, that his hair is fine, he just looks at me, shakes his head, and asks me ever so politely to proceed with the shoot. So I proceed. Viewing him through the lens, I zoom out. He wears wrinkled khaki pants and a gray t-shirt. Underneath, a gray thermal covers the length of his skinny arms. At his back, a cinder block wall painted a glossy white. He changes position, posing for the camera, his arms folded across his thin chest. His gaze is intense, yet his pale skin and boyish features seem so frail and ghostly behind the unforgiving steel, illuminated by harsh fluorescent lights. After taking another 10 pictures or so, he asked me to hold the Canon close to the gaze so he can analyze his images. I scroll through them. He points his long index finger at the screen, punctuating contempt at them. Delete, delete, delete. And my brown finger deletes images of the white boy man who deleted people by reason of their brown skin. As we continue this process over and over, I wonder if he hadn't done what he did, would we have known each other before this? I don't know who I am to him here. But the very first time I took his pictures, he thanked me and said, "You're my hero." Hero or not, I wonder whether he would have seen my humanity, and through me, the humanity of those others, and through me, the humanity of those others. Or would I have been deleted too, just like the digital images I keep shooting? I erase those thoughts and refocus on the shoot. Occasionally he smiles upon seeing a picture he likes, which I always dislike because he appears stiff and stoic, which is nothing but a facade, a mask for his vulnerabilities. As he rejects another picture, I counter, "But this is a good one. See your shy smile? See how natural and effortless it is? How it harmonizes with your energies?" "My mom would like it," he says. "She likes it when I smile." He never mentions his mom. I can tell he's deep in thought, considering whether to keep it. He taps his index finger against his chin for a few beats, and then he says, "Delete them all." I press the trash icon, wiping those images from memory. As I leave his presence, it occurs to me that we are more than how we appear, more than the distorted images that reflect the worst things our hands have done. We are complex beings with various facets, reflecting nuances of our culture, our surroundings, our upbringing. No one moment can fully capture our frail humanity. Images, masked actors, assumed personas. How easy it is to delete them. How susceptible we all are. Do I have time for one more, do you think?
Yeah.
Okay. This one is called Too Heavy to Bear, Life on Federal Death Row. On federal death row in Terre Haute, Indiana, life is bleak. The concrete, cold, and the steel unforgiving. This place has a way of getting inside me, permeating my mood, inducing bleakness, coldness, unforgiveness. It's much easier to slip away into a disassociative state and float outside yourself into a world of fantasy rather than undergoing the harrows of deprivation in which I now live. I lie in bed, staring at the white ceiling, the metal bed frame pressing hard through the thin mattress. I turn on my side, giving my back some much-needed relief. A few minutes ago, I'd stirred awake to find myself once again entombed in a small concrete cell. My mood supersaturated with the death life of death row. I sense precipitation condensing on my eyes, tears forming on my lids. I can no longer shake the feeling of living death, of being alive and yet somehow dead, dead to the world and bereft of social stimulation. A tear slides down my cheek. I mourn what my life has become, what it has been reduced to. My suffering is too heavy for me, more than I can bear. Contemplation aside, I focus on my surroundings. From the vent above my stainless steel sink toilet combination, the sound of air blows hard into my cell, a monotonous soundtrack to my existence. If it weren't for that sound, it would be dead silent, as it ought to be in death. It's summer outside, but the winter resides within the tombs. During rounds as an orderly who cleans up this entire unit, I see men in winter coats, skull caps, and jersey gloves trying to keep warm, wrapped up like mummies. But nothing they do keeps the trembling at bay. We shiver not just from the cold air, but from the absence of social rapport, that effective warmth we experience in intimacy with others. These mental wanderings evoke far-flung association to Cain's punishment. Cain, who, according to the Bible, murdered his brother Abel. He spit blood crying from the earth. As the story goes, Cain was a farmer. His punishment was that the ground would no longer produce its strength. As it turned out, he became a vagabond on earth, his callous souls wandering from one place to another, and so he cried to the heavens that his punishment was too heavy for him, too hard to bear. But at least Cain wasn't uprooted from the earth and entombed in a barren concrete cell where neither weeds nor thorns grow. No matter his wandering, he was still connected to his environment, to nature. It's been years, almost 2 decades since I felt soil. I don't remember the touch of grass underfoot, nor can my palms recall the feeling of the cool Georgia dirt of my childhood. I would eagerly barter my circumstance for Cain's. Capital punishment is most excessive, greater than Cain's punishment. At this idea, my thoughts seem to unravel. I start to fidget. I snatch the dingy white sheet and the beige blanket off my body, sit up in bed, my bare feet thudding on the smooth concrete floor. It's piercing cold, shocking my soles. Reflexively, I raise up on my toes and tiptoe to the window, a footstep away. I can tell it's dark morning, for dawn's glow is absent outside. I cannot really look through my window. It's frosted over. An opaque film adheres to the outer glass, allowing only light to filter through. But on this window, the frosted film ends 1/16 of an inch before reaching the right edge, providing a sliver of transparency to peer through. I press my face to the glass, one eye up close to the edge as I try to make out the world beyond. I discern nothing but the light from the stadium-style floodlights reflecting off the beige stucco building of my imprisonment. I thought I would have caught a glimpse of my dear old friend, the moon, as she glows in the light in the sleeping sun, tucked below the horizon. But she's nowhere to be found. Where are you, my friend? My heart reaches out to her. Don't you know that your moody light thrills me, the way it waxes and wanes, reflecting the warm light of your lover, the sun? Disappointed, I turn from the window and pace 7 steps from the back of my cell, where the wall hosts the window, to the front of my cell, where the steel door locks me in. As I step up to the door and look out the narrow plexiglass window cut into the steel, I see my neighbor across the range from me. On the outside of his maximum security door is a photo of his prison ID displayed with a see-through case magnetized to his door. In bold font is his last name, Rodriguez. A capital H for his race, Hispanic. In the photo, his head reaches a little above 62-inch line, marking his height at 5'2". He looks to be in his mid-60s. We've lived in proximity to each other for years. He's reclusive, rarely ever talks. I hear from him only if he has a question. "Taylor," he calls out, his voice weak and hesitant, perhaps from a lack of use. "Are we on lockdown?" He asks questions of this kind when things seem off, when the daily routine is interrupted. What's strange about this is he never comes out of his cell, neither for recreation nor for computer, but every blue moon he gets a visit from a nun with St. Mary of the Woods. Yet somehow, intuitively, he feels interruptions to the routine of our unit. I see him standing at his door, looking out his window onto the range. His eyes scan the concrete floor as if he's tracking something scuttling about. He never eyes me, not even once. I wish I could get that look of acknowledgement from him, that look that shows me I'm seen, so I won't feel so alone. I look out onto the range to see if there's anything crawling below. I see nothing. Is he hallucinating? I ask myself. I've never seen him do so, but surely something has caught his attention. Whether real or imagined, I've read psychic accounts of how the brain can produce its own stimuli in the absence of objective stimuli. Plus, I've seen men here who hallucinate, who wander off in their heads to desert islands where they hang out with friends talking about the good old days. "It beats being here in this hellhole," a friend once told me. Make no mistake about it. Federal death row is solitary confinement. On average, we're on lockdown 22 hours a day. We're allotted about 6 hours per week for recreation, 1 hour per day for computer. At the computer, we can buy music for our MP3 players, use the Corelink's email system for 5 cents per minute, and do legal research. In our cells, we eat, sleep, shower, use the toilet, and talk on the phone. No matter my staring, my neighbor pays me no mind. Though I really want company, I do likewise. I turn from the door and continue my pacing. A lone tear rolls down my face. Surely this death punishment is greater than I can bear. Rajon Taylor, 4107-074.
Thank you, Jamie. Glenda, I have you number 2.
Okay.
To go up next.
I'm going to be reading pieces from 3 different men. 2 I knew, 1 I didn't, 2 I still know, 1 I didn't know, and a piece that I wrote after being in jail, and another one about being in the Monroe County Jail with a group of women and their voices that you'll hear from that writing. This first one is by William E. LaCroix, Jr., who was executed at the federal prison at Terre Haute on September 22nd, 2020. I didn't know him. I sent him cards for several years when the Bloomington Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty would send cards to people on death row, both at Terre Haute's federal death row and at Michigan City State death row. So that was my only connection with him, but I do remember writing his name on cards and envelopes. So this is a poem that he wrote. Timber. From this barred window, browning at the edge of a grass field, I behold those crooked pines, lines of sap oozing freely down the barkless spots on their trunks, perhaps weeping, remembering a time in youth when they were green. Orange bands bright like nooses strangle them, condemn them. No longer part of the living ecosystem, different somehow, infested and eyesore, or carriers of fungus or death rot contagion, they are marked for death, quarantined. Anxiously awaiting their executioners, do they contemplate that fate? Are they conscious, struggling to breathe, senses a-twitter, ever vigilant, listening for the thwack of looming axes whose vibrations tremble every dry brown needle? And when they have joined the fallen, paralyzed and prone on the forest floor, lingering in death unbeknownst to others to be hacked in pieces and hauled off, do they scream sharply when heaped upon the pyre? Finally consumed, just ashes, dead and gone. Will there be something more for them than numbing oblivion, finality? Is there some place eternal, fertile, beside a tranquil river with lots of sunshine, waiting to greet the roots of their spirit? Or can they focus only upon the culling, coming along today or tomorrow or the next? To all living things eventually, even the men here on death row, isolated, graying, dying like those pines. Perhaps they are resigned in knowing that much too soon, to even the mighty, something comes along to cut us all down, and maybe they dread only the arbitrary waiting. William E. LaCroix, Jr. The next 3 short poems are by Philip Stroud, who I've been visiting since 2008, I think. Wabash Prison, Pendleton Prison, Michigan City Prison. The first one is called I Doth Protest, 2014. How does it feel when you lose control like an angry mob, robbed of its only hope? Justice was denied. Another black boy died. I have too much pride to cry on the outside, but on the inside my heart is hurt. My soul is sad, because we used to be all we had, ready to ride, willing to go to jail, or even die to bring about change. Now we are faceless strangers, full of anger and pain, destroying our own communities, engulfed in flames. It makes me want to holler and rip off my skin, because it's obviously a sin to be black or brown like Michael, our brother, our murdered son, slain in Ferguson by someone who swore to serve and protect us. But in the end, if we don't value our own lives, nobody else will, and that's real. The revolution begins in our time, through the renewing of our minds, not with guns or knives, We have to stop taking each other's lives if we are to survive. You and I must unite and learn to love you and me. Rec Yard Reverie by Philip Stroud, 2017. I was laying on the concrete track in the recreation yard, staring up at the starless sky, thinking about family, friends, and freedom. The darkness in the sky made me think about all the unknown that's out there beyond this planet. It made me think about all the unknown moments and memories that I never got to be part of because I'm in here. Then it started raining. I laid there with my eyes closed and imagined it was my ancestors, my homies, and my loved ones, dead and alive, crying down tears of joy and tears of sorrow, down on me, like, we hear you, we see you, we feel you, I'm doing all right. Today, Philip wrote this in 2023. Just got out of the shower, the refreshing feel of warm water cleansing my skin. What a wonderful way to begin this day. Now I'm back in this cell living, not just in my head or my thoughts. No, I'm in motion, doing, active as I can be, even in this confined space, pacing the floor, 12 steps from the back of the wall to the door, doing calf raises, push-ups, crunches, lunges, and squats, giving it all I got, in between commercial breaks, watching Morning Joe. Gotta go. Those were by Philip Stroud, and he's now at Michigan City. This one's by Brandon Cerna, who I met at Wabash. I've never visited him. He was a cellmate of Philip's for several years. Freedom, getting closer to the door. I'm doing all right. No heat on here as, no, I'm going to start over. I'm doing all right. No heat on here as the weather changes, which is typical. And I'm awaiting on my transfer to get approved so I can get to my next journey. Getting closer to the door, the many doors that will appear and open one after another, leading to the big door of me being free, or as free as one can be while on a year's parole, free from being behind a prison fence, free from having to choose to eat a food-like substance which good old Aramark threw together, or some processed commissary food full of additives to preserve it, free to enjoy a home-cooked meal free of soy, free from not being able to control the heat, free to enjoy AC in the summer, free to take a shower as hot as I can stand it, or walk on a carpet barefoot, or sit down on a cushioned toilet seat and use some 2-ply paper, LOL for real. Free to walk outside past lights out, look up at the stars, moon, and unknown, free to breathe the cool, crisp night air, maybe enjoy the smell of a bonfire, and bond, you know, free to hug and hold my family, my loved ones, to be around safe people I know love me and wish to do me no harm or get something over on me. Free to just feel normal, free as God or whatever higher power one believes in created us to be, uncaged, unshackled, free. I'm a-getting there, getting closer to the door every day. I'm a-doing all right. This is a piece that I wrote, and I think maybe I read it at a Writers Guild thing before in a open mic. And I was in jail in Evansville, Indiana. So this is from that experience. A Jesus kind of thing, 1984. I called out timidly, "Could someone bring me a blanket, please?" I waited to be given warmth. Even a lightweight blanket would do. Nothing. I listened for footsteps. Nothing. I called out louder, "Could someone please bring me a blanket?" Stillness followed. Total quiet. No response. Then through the wall to my left, "You'll have to be louder than that, honey. Here, let me try." She raked something metal across the bars. Back and forth, back and forth. "Hey, this little lady in here is freezing her ass off. Bring her a fucking blanket. Hey, I know you can hear me. We need a blanket back here." The quiet was even quieter. She said, "Here, honey, take one of mine. It's not much, but it's better than nothing. My name's Annie, by the way. I saw him bring you in a while ago. What are you in here for? You don't look the type to be locked up." Civil disobedience, I said. My name's Glenda, by the way. I'm a peace activist, trying to stop the war against Nicaragua, charged with trespassing on government property. Good for you, honey. Sounds like a Jesus kind of thing. I'm a whore. Been here before. Ain't so bad. Of course, the men I lay down with don't get no time. Thanks for what you're trying to do. Thanks for the blanket. It's perfect. A Jesus kind of thing. Good luck, Annie. You too, honey. Try to get some sleep now. Morning comes awful early in here. I scooted over on the cot, as close to the wall as I could get, as close to Annie as I could get. Ain't so bad, I thought. Ain't so bad. And my last piece I wrote while waiting at the Monroe County Correctional Center. That's the name of it. And there are lots of voices in here of incarcerated women at the right down the road from us, right down wherever it is from here. It's close by. Okay. Sitting in this jail waiting room, sometimes for hours, is ordinary business for some folks. Just another morning or afternoon of waiting to see their loved one, spouse, child, cousin, friend, maybe even a parent. Dirty walls, frosted one-way window, and that heavy door with the intercom screwed on the wall beside it. This room does not inspire hope. I wonder about all the shoes that have scuffed across this floor. Everything from worn-out work boots to ordinary tennis shoes to the dressiest dress-up shoes in the closet, as long as they have no more than 1-inch heels. My mind wanders, as I wait, to one of the women's writing circles that I helped facilitate in here a few years ago. It was an especially rowdy group, not scary rowdy, just noisy and unsettled rowdy, when what we were trying for was quiet reflection and writing time. The 10 or so women who had signed up for class needed to vent, to socialize, to cry. They'd been on lockdown for several weeks. I don't remember why. My guess is that it had something to do with the grossly overcrowded conditions at the jail. The large 25 by 25 foot multi-purpose room where a couple of women writing for a change facilitators held writing circles twice a month must have felt a little bit like freedom to them. After the last of the women had been escorted into the room and the door locked behind her, and after each woman chose a chair, picked up the notebook and agenda from it, and sat down, the tamped down need to give voice to their emotions bubbled up and boiled over. An aunt caught up with a niece who'd just been brought in last week. A neighbor talked with a neighbor about the school that both their children attended. A newbie shyly reached out to those who seemed to know the ropes in which she'd gotten herself entangled. They needed to share their experiences out loud, and so they wrote their stories in midair, mouth to ear and heart to heart, bypassing pencil and notebook. Sorry I stink. I haven't had a shower for over a week, and that little sliver of soap they gave me has about lost its oomph. You don't stink any more than the rest of us, honey. Our cell is for 2 people, and there's 4 of us in there all day long, sometimes from 6 a.m. till midnight. They got way too fucking many people in here. I know that for a fact. Yeah, 2 of us sleep on cots in the cafeteria at night, but we get kicked out of there during the day and parceled out to the cells. 4 of us in a 6x8. We get along okay, thank God. That's a friggin' miracle. We play cards and tell a lot of stories. And if someone needs to use the toilet, a couple of us hold up a sheet to give her some privacy. Privacy? Ha! It's a wonder all of us aren't dying with kidney or bowel dysfunction in here. Do you have any idea how hard it is to shit or piss with at least 1 and sometimes 3 other women within spitting distance? I mean, sometimes taking a dump can be really noisy, you know what I mean? And it's always smelly. So there you are, fouling the air and hating every second of it. Yeah, and I had diarrhea for 3 days last week. I must have said I'm sorry 100 million times. And some of the food they feed us, whoa mama, besides being bland and ugly, it causes gas out the wazoo. And knowing that I get more and more used to it every fucking day I'm in here does nothing for my self-esteem. It's like we're a bunch of animals throwing the bare necessities to keep us alive and halfway civilized. And don't even mention when we have our periods. You'd think we were asking for gold bricks sometimes when we ask for extra pads. Damn it, I can't help it that I'm a bleeder. Have been ever since I was 12. So I use my extra socks, towels, whatever's handy to stick between my legs, till the guards decide they've got time to bring me some pads. And the smell of 4 women in a cell when at least one of us is on the rag and showers are still 3 days away? Oh, baby, don't even get me started. I think you've already started, but good Lord, girl, let's drop the smells for a bit, okay? Let's breathe this fresh air, well, fresher air, and settle down some. My skin even feels cleaner in here, even though I know it's not. Something about just moving around and escaping the same old, the repetition, repetition, repetition. Did I just say repetition 3 times? Good Lord, my brain's on a loop, on a loop, on a loop. We all laughed and did our best to let silence follow. Silence. As much silence as could be expected. There was the air conditioning unit in the back corner and muted male voices out in the hall. A sigh, a cough, a sniffle here and there, but as close to silence as we could get. We passed a flower around the circle that the lead facilitator had brought in. We passed it slowly, each woman taking time with that ordinary piece of nature from the outside world, taking time to settle into the class, to be here now. What did that small ritual evoke in each of them? How deep were their wounds, their sadness? They were able to put some of it into words when we did our writing exercise. Some of them shared their reflections with the rest of us. Some didn't. Some just sat and cried. Which brings me back to this waiting room where the woman sitting across from me pulls a Kleenex out of her purse and wipes her tears, blows her nose. She's maybe a little older than I am. She's wearing a gray sweatshirt that says Proud Grandma in bold red letters. Her tennis shoes have seen better days, and it appears that she has too. We make eye contact for a few seconds, and she heaves a sigh and shrugs her shoulders. My grandson, she says. Oh, that's got to be really hard, I say. Hope your visit goes well. She nods as she stands up and heads for the door beside the intercom, as her name is called. I wait for the co-facilitator to arrive. I brought the flower today, a white peony blossom that is so big it takes both hands to cradle it. In some traditions, peonies are given as gestures of goodwill and joy, and the color white often represents new beginnings, a fresh start. I can't wait for the women to pass it around the circle and fall into the depths of its petal-layered beauty, to breathe deeply of its heady fragrance, and to embrace its symbolism. I can't wait to sit in the circle again with these sometimes funny, sometimes rowdy, sometimes broken, and almost always financially depleted women. I close my eyes and breathe, trying to make peace with this world that is so very different from mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenda. Amy. Thanks, Molly, and thanks to the Writers Guild for having us today. It's nice to see friends in the room. I also volunteer at the Monroe County Correction Center. Women Writing for Change has been going in there for this August will be 19 years. So we're real proud of that service we provide to the women. We go in every other Saturday, and this piece I wrote, it's pretty long. I'm going to read excerpts from it. But this piece I wrote probably 12 or 15 years ago. It has been updated. So some of it's new, some of it's old. We've been through at least three. We have been going in through at least 3 different commanders, elected sheriffs. So things have changed over the years. Rules have changed. There are some statistics in here that I'll read that are probably a little outdated, but they remain to be true-ish, I guess we can say. I've also put in this piece some excerpts from some of the women, some of the writings. And these have all been published in an anthology we did. That being said, I will read just their first names, but these have been published, so they are out there somewhere. So I'm going to start with an excerpt from a poem called Addicted, Confused, and Mad by Joyce B. I didn't ask to become what I have become today, addicted to cocaine in every form and way. My addiction within is truly so real. I wonder sometimes, can people feel what I feel? People look at you and wonder why you just can't let go. To them it feels easy to do, but they just don't know. You could never teach a person something in which you never learned,
Can anyone teach me how to deal with this pain I hide? I wish I wasn't born with this addiction inside. And that was by Joyce B. When we enter the jail on Saturday afternoons, the lobby smells of urine and cement and boiled hot dogs. When we sign in for our volunteer time at the guard station, brown uniformed corrections officers sit behind two-way mirrors. From the dimly lit confines of their guard post cubicle, they check in volunteers, families, lawyers, and preachers who come and go from waiting on the inmates of the Monroe County Correction Center. As I wait patiently to check in, I notice that the guards watch bad 80s reruns on one of their many television monitors. The rest are tuned to various closed-circuit cameras within the jail. Some weeks, the inmates I meet complain that all there is for them to do on the block is fight over the television. I then understand that watching TV is what they all do, guard and prisoner. One woman in our jail writing circle says, "You can't escape it," as if the nonstop television is the real horror of incarceration. There are a few constants in this volunteer gig at the jail. First, because it is jail and not prison, the population is not stable. By that, I mean it is impossible to get a regular writing practice going with inmates because every time we go in, the participants change. If you have read any prison writing stories or anthologies, you note that the teacher makes intimate friendships with longtime prisoners. Often in those memoirs, you get to know several students and hear their stories and writing. Those longtime relationships and the ability to build on learning are the hallmarks of those narratives. This is not true in a local jail. Well, there are a few women who we'll see week after week for 6 months because they're awaiting a big trial or a bed in a recovery unit or transport to prison. For the most part, our circles vary every time we enter. New faces come in almost every time we are here. Women are in and out of jail quickly. Before the pandemic, there was serious overcrowding, and now the Sheriff's Department makes a significant effort to keep out people who are not a harm to themselves or others. So people are let out faster these days. Another constant is that the rules that govern what volunteers can and cannot do change frequently and without warning, or perhaps they are enforced differently every time we go in. When I train new people, I often say that the first thing they need to know is that everything changes all the time. The only rule seems to be that there are no rules for guests into the building. I've been treated differently and according to different rules almost every time I've entered for 18 years. Sometimes I'm asked for ID, sometimes no one asks. Sometimes there is a mysterious list that they check my name off of. Sometimes they've never heard of the list. Sometimes I'm allowed to bring in a flower. Sometimes I'm told to throw it away and not bring it into the multi-purpose room where I meet the women. Sometimes I'm quizzed about what I'm doing. Sometimes I'm left alone. Sometimes a dozen women will come to our circle, sometimes only 2. Sometimes we arrive to be turned away because the women are in lockdown, which is a mysterious state which means inmates have been sent to their individual cells within the block because they've had an infraction or because they are refinishing the floors on the unit and the inmates can't have contact with work people. Lockdown means no writing circle. On an average day in the Monroe County Correction Center, where we volunteer to hold these writing circles, there are 250 inmates, even though the secure housing bed count with double bunking is only 183. 13% of those 250 inmates are females. Over 2/3 of the females in jail are there for drugs or drug-related crimes. And the average number of arrests that each female has already accumulated by the time she sits in our writing circle is 7 arrests. 7 arrests and 4 convictions. This poem is by Linda. It's called Taking My Dog Out on a Full Moon. Walking my dog, there's a full moon, snow on the ground, wearing my dad's boots, take 10 steps and wait, looking at the moon, wondering what this full moon is going to bring. Another 10 steps, looking at the moon, hearing my dog digging away at the snow, baring her nose, laughing with her, thinking of going to my boyfriend's and sitting around a crispy, popping, bright bonfire with my dog on my lap, trying to keep us both warm. Under the moon so bright, still wondering what the night will bring. And that's Taking My Dog Out on a Full Moon by Linda. I have never felt unsafe in the jail, and I have never been yelled at or humiliated. The women and many of the guards that I encounter almost always thank me for my time. Guards lead a group of women from the block to the multipurpose room and lock us all into the room for our 60-minute writing circle. This doesn't feel comfortable to me, but on most Saturdays I am let in and out of the room with ease. Some in our volunteer ranks tell apocryphal tales of being ready to leave the room and being stuck inside for an extra hour or more while they find a guard to accompany the women back to the block, and this has never happened to me. In my earliest days of volunteering, I used to feel like I was entering an episode of Prison Break, and I would look anxiously around for the shiv hidden in someone's sleeve. But no one has ever threatened me, much less produced a sharpened end of a toothbrush to demand my pencils and poems. I've relaxed a lot since the early days. My biggest worry is about the large PVC pipe that runs along the ceiling of the multipurpose room that slow drips in mysterious brown water into the middle of our circle. I eye that pipe warily. When we arrive in the room, we scramble to set up the space into a kind of paradise suitable for our writing practice. A storytelling workshop meets ritual circle meets therapeutic intervention. But we also try to turn this seafoam green, hymnal-lined, table-filled, fluorescent-lit room just a small bit homey. And when I say that one must understand that there is nothing beautiful about this place, nothing eye-catching, nothing even faintly stirring, nothing comforting or sensual or colorful. The cheeriest thing the inmates get is small posters squeezed in between bookshelves with admonishments like, "One day at a time," or "Let go and let God." It all adds up to a kind of stuporous mantra with which they fill the inmates, male and female. If you are accountable for what you do and accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, you'll be fine. I don't have anything against either of those concepts, but I know there must be more to getting your life straightened out than God and AA. The room is filled with tables and chairs, bookshelves with an odd assortment of old textbooks, Bibles and old magazines, a couple of computers that we have never used and are not sure who uses them, a dry erase board, the aforementioned cheery saying wall hangings, and some ancient handmade posters congratulating several inmates for getting their GEDs. I sometimes look at those names and wonder if those inmates ever came back or if they used the GED to launch a better life for themselves. This jail no longer offers GED programming. When the most recent elected sheriff started his term, he made a big deal about the mess in the jail and began a months-long deep cleaning project, which included a big change from bright orange uniforms to dark gray uniforms. Someone explains, every time a new sheriff is elected, the new administration has about 2 months to complain and make changes because they can blame any problems on the previous administration. After about 2 months, they need to stop pointing fingers. Suddenly, there is new furniture in the multipurpose room, and walls and floors are being scrubbed clean. The pipe still drips, but things smell a bit less like hot dogs. The women in our circle seem giddy about the cleaning and the changes. This poem I have now is not titled, and it's by Katrina. Teach me to love would be on how to love truly, unconditionally for everyone who has hurt me in the past, as well as being able to love those that come into my future from this day forward. Teach me such patience at each turning would mean that I would have to understand that things don't happen when I want them to, but when He, the higher power, wants them to. Teach me to need the future and the past means I need to realize that everything has happened in my life for a reason. My past is my past, and I can't undo what has already been done. But I can make changes for tomorrow so I don't repeat those mistakes. Let me be tricked into believing I might be saved means to me that when I leave this place, I'll be saved by the Lord's doing and by my faith. I know that for myself, it will be awesome when I get from hardship. And that's from Katrina. And I'm going to read one more poem by Joyce and a short epilogue. And then we can... So this is also by Joyce. Dear Lord, I address this letter to the Lord in a very simple way. Lord, please hear my cry. Please hear my prayer. Why do I keep making the same mistakes over and over again? Am I hoping to get a different result? Am I hoping to win? Why is it so hard for me to learn my lesson and do right? Instead, I'm always struggling a battle in which I have to fight. Lord, please tell me, is there something that I really don't see? Oops. that I really don't see. Oh, here we go. Because I'm tired of hurting my family and tired of hurting me. Lord, I can only express what I feel as what I feel. There's no time to be fake, and I can only become real. I was taught to treat others like you want to be treated in everything you do, and what goes around comes around. I found that to be true too. I'm really tired, Lord, but don't know what to do. They tell me all the time to just put my heart and trust in you. I understand in this life I do have choices. I need to listen and read God's word and ignore devil's voices. So I'm going to keep hoping and believing in you, Lord, today. Please hear my cry. Please hear my prayer. And that was by Joyce. Joyce Berry wrote a poem, an excerpt of which served as an epigraph to this essay. She wrote with our writing group at Monroe County Correction Center on and off for many years. She was in and out of our circles as they cycled through her addictions and crimes. She's memorable for two reasons. She was an older black woman, and in our circles we do not see many black women at all. She's also remembered because she's one of the few people I ran into on the outside. When she wasn't incarcerated or high, she worked a part-time job at a local fast food restaurant, and I would see her at the drive-thru on occasion. She always greeted me and was happy to see me. I would encourage her to keep writing. She was an outgoing, gregarious, friendly woman who always wrote long, roaming poems about her addiction and her regrets. She was memorable to many of the early volunteers in our program. We all loved her. We learned she passed away last year when her name was read at an annual memorial for homeless people in our community. She was 60 years old. Thank you.
Yeah, everyone take a breath. That was wonderful, wonderful readings. Thank you so much. It's a real gift to hear these words from these folks. So we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to have the open mic. Does anyone else want to read? I have Tonya reading and during the open mic. Anyone else want to do? No, Joan, you don't want to? Okay, that's fine, that's fine. We're happy you're here. All right, so, and then we'll join again in about 5 minutes. The cafe's open, the shop's open, and the bathroom's on the back on the left. Thank you. Okay, we're going to get started. For some reason, the mic is gone, but I'll try to be loud. So this is our open mic section. We actually have 2 readers today. I'm very excited. The first is Tonya Matthew. And you want to come on up. Should I move that chair?
Move the chair, that'd be great.
And let me help you up here.
You just give me an arm, that's great.
Yeah,
Thanks so much.
sure.
Okay. I was very moved by all the readings we've just heard, and this is really going down and feeling and emotion. It's a practical piece. But thank you for being there for those women, and thank you for reading their work to us. It is really very moving. Thank you. People seem to be talking a lot about the new people who are putting in the internet, and also about what the rain is doing to various aspects of having water. So I thought I would read this short piece that I wrote last summer. Sewer problems. First of all, the water in the downstairs toilet bubbles and splashes, then rises to the rim as I plunge the water down just in time. The plumbers come, diagnose a broken sewer pipe, dig down to expose broken sewer pipe and orange fiber optic cables beside it. Take pictures, send to fiber optic company with a statement saying, the cause of the broken sewage pipe is the laying of the cable. The company sends someone out, takes pictures, says the sewer pipe isn't broken, therefore it is not their problem. The toilet still bubbles and floods. Plumbers come a second time, Dig a little further, take more pictures. Laugh, good old boy Hoosier laughs, and send pictures and note to the company. You was all looking at the drainage pipe. Looky here, we dug back some more, and see them cables? You best come on back and fix this. The site manager, Michael, in charge of the project, sends out 2 men. By now it's Friday. They dig some more. Michael, who is leaving for a weekend in Chicago, is keeping in touch by phone and demanding pictures. One man does not speak English, the other barely. There is no way, as is required by the state, that these 2 have plumber's licenses. I am so lucky that my daughter Fran is visiting. In her job, she organizes. She stays in touch with Michael. She communicates with one of the men, Cesar, with the translation app on her phone. Cesar shows Michael a picture. Michael agrees the pipe was broken by the company and sends Cesar off to get some special pipes. All this time, we are not releasing water. No washing dishes, clothes, ourselves, no flushing. How did you? Never mind. My daughter keeps talking, listening to Cesar and to Michael, then climbs into the hole and looks where they're putting the pipe. Cesar says, "Go, flush water." I do, and it bubbles and rises. Fran takes a picture, sends it to Michael. Michael says, "Cesar, come back tomorrow and dig further back." It's Saturday. Fran has to leave before the men arrive. Keep in touch, she says, and I will keep talking on the phone to Michael and Cesar. When they arrive and I come to greet them with a neighbor who stopped by, Cesar calls out, "Fran!" And I say, "She's gone home, you have me to deal with." He says nothing, leaps in the hole and starts digging, shouts at the other man. They work into dusk, putting all the gravel they have under the pipe. Send Michael pictures, tell me, "Flush, flush." And it does, several times. Michael tells them to come back Monday with more gravel and finish the job. They grin and leave. I call Fran. She's pleased, but says, "Use lots of water over the weekend and keep flushing the toilet." I laugh and tell her I will. I do the dishes, 2 big loads of laundry, take a shower. All Sunday and into Monday, the toilet flushes. Late Monday, the men return, finish filling up the hole. Michael is satisfied. He sends them away. I make an appointment to see my lawyer. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Our last open mic is Sheena. Are you ready? Okay, welcome. Come on up.
Sorry, this is kind of last minute. Like, I just walked in and I heard all the lovely narratives. I'm so touched by all the stories. Well, I have just a very short poem which I wrote for my dad. My dad is 89. Last year, he was 88. So we had a scare. He was in the hospital for 3 months and he was on the ventilator, but he survived. He survived. But at that point, I was very, very sad because he didn't wake up, you know. So I just wrote this poem. It was a very short one. Okay, my dad. I am nothing but a speck of dust, floating in the air aimlessly as I breathe. For that is all I have, my breath, till its last. And if not for my dad who stood steadfast, his outbursts of wisdom and knowledge in a gust, his humanity, honesty, and humility in just this speck is but a glitter of his legacy, a man who stood the test of time. Now, as he battles for his life helplessly, his forlorn eyes light my soul endlessly. God, please, I want to see him again and again.
Thank you.
I thank all our readers today. It takes a lot to get up here and read, and I am grateful to you. I think Tonya said everything I should have said about how moving and meaningful and important all your words are today. And also to the open mic folks. Thank you. So I hope you come back next month. And on May 4th at 4, we'll be featuring Shane Lauder and Peter Vinch reading prose from their collections. So I hope to see you again. And again, I thank you.